Welcome to the Record Machine Show podcast. And now, here's your host, James Michael Hollenstein.
I have an exciting show lined up for you today featuring an interview with the talented singer-songwriter Michael Armstrong. Michael just launched his 5th album titled 10, which showcases a selection of his favorite and most beloved tracks from the past decade. Over the last 10 years, he's triumphed over cancer, learned to manage type 2 diabetes, and achieved 2 USA Top 3 hits, including a remarkable 4-week stint at number 1 in the autumn of 2021 with his original song, Each Other's Eyes. Additionally, the late great Terry Wogan on BBC Radio 2 was the first to promote his music on the air, and numerous other radio stations have since joined in supporting him. He has graced global stages and collaborated with many of his musical idols such as Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Cliff Richard, Chris de Burgh, Glenn Frey, Russell Watson, and Suzi Quatro. He has even had the honor of meeting Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the now King Charles, and Queen Camilla. But before we jump into the interview, let us take a moment to enjoy one of the tracks off this fantastic album. This one's titled Looking for the World.
Looking at you, making love so simple and new. Looking at me, wishing it was easy and free. This roller coaster ride, ignition, soaring highs, then wild attrition, brings me back to earth with gravity. I'm looking at you, and all the crazy things that you do. To grind you, and the smoke just seems to blind you. Stop looking for the world. If the cold wind blows right through you, throw your arms, sing hallelujah. Stop looking for the world. Looking for the world. Try my best to make this happen. Try my best to make this right.
You just heard the song Looking for the World, and I have Michael on the line for an interview. How you doing?
Very good, sir. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How's the weather there?
Beautiful. Yes, we're having a heat wave. It's our fourth heat wave of the summer so far. So global warming is being kind to England.
Nice. I'm in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's hot there, is it?
Oh yeah, we only get like summer and fall here. We don't really get like cold winters, you know.
Okay.
So I originally grew up in Jersey, and we used to get some real tough winters there, like 2 feet of snow. You'd have to shovel your driveway out, and then the plow would come by and throw it all back into the driveway again. Right. You'd be sitting there with your fist up, cursing at them and stuff. But they always do that. I don't get it. But
if it snows in London, everything comes to a complete standstill. I'm afraid the trains stop, the buses stop, and that's only about 3 inches of snow.
It rains a lot there, though, right?
Yeah, not so. Yeah, I mean, as I say, this global warming effect seems to be having a positive effect on the UK, in that the winters seem to be milder, the rain has been less, and we're getting these beautiful summers. So. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but we're getting the best of it. Yeah,
when it rains here, sometimes it'll just rain for like 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out, and the rest of the day it's beautiful. Back when I lived in Jersey, when it rained, you know what I mean? It rained for several hours. It didn't just do like 30 minutes and stop. So I kind of like that over here. So, where were you born and raised, and where did you spend your childhood?
I was born in Wimbledon. Famous across the world for the tennis, raised in a place called Mitcham, just around the corner from Wimbledon, and then we moved to an area called Rains Park. We kind of climbed the ladder, or my parents climbed the ladder, from a very working class beginning to perhaps a more middle class areas as we grew up. And my dad was very successful, I had a great childhood and a real interesting upbringing.
Nice. Now, do you still reside in the same area?
No, I now live in. I'm still in Surrey, so Wimbledon's kind of on the outskirts of London, but we kind of moved out to Surrey, which is a more leafy, suburby kind of area, and I now live in an area called Banstead. I'm only about, I guess, I'm 40 minutes drive from Wimbledon, but it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world, and I'm very lucky to live here.
Awesome. How did you first become interested in music, and when did you start playing your instrument or singing?
God, I can been interested in music for as long as I can remember. I specifically remember being in the back of my mum and dad's car. I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and when we'd go around to on car journeys or whatever, there was tape cassettes in those days. This is back in the 70s. I was born in 73, so I'm guessing I'm remembering from about 76, 77 onwards. And my parents had the Beatles albums, the red and blue ones, the greatest hits album. I remember they had them on cassette. And my brother and I would make them play them when we were going on journeys. And we'd sing along. We'd sing along to the tracks, and my dad would tell us who was singing each track, whether it was Paul or John or George or Ringo. I now know he got it completely wrong. He didn't know what he was talking about. Now I'm a scholar on the Beatles, but so I can tell him now. But I specifically remember that and singing along and harmonising with my brother. So music was ingrained from a very early age, and my dad had a great vinyl collection, and we'd often listen on a Sunday evening to the Top 40 Countdown, which was the only place you could get your music. There were two places. On a Thursday night, there was a TV program called Top of the Pops, where kind of all the stars of the day would perform or mime, probably. And then on Sunday evening, you get the Top 40 Countdown. There was no YouTube. There was nowhere else you could. There was certainly no Spotify or anything like that. You had to listen to the radio and to find out what was going on. So that was a big deal, listening on a Sunday night to find out who was in the top 10. And I think I started to play guitar. I wanted a guitar, I think, for my 11th birthday. My dad got me an electric guitar. My parents got me an electric guitar for Christmas, which I'd asked for. It was from the catalogue. It was a terrible thing called a Marlin Slammer. Terrible action on it. It was just, really difficult. I don't know why these beginners guitars they make it so difficult to learn on. But I went off and I had guitar lessons, and I think as soon as I could play a few chords, I was writing songs. Not very good ones, but you got to start somewhere. And and then I learned to play taught myself to play the piano during. Do you know what rugby is? You know the game of rugby? Do you have that
of course. Yep.
It's similar to American football, I guess. Well, I'm sure it's not, but they throw the ball rather than kick it.
Yeah.
My school was a big rugby school, and I'm not a big guy. I don't like being cold. I don't like being muddy. I don't like big people running at me who want to hurt me. I'm a coward, basically. And I'm a musician, and I was terrible at rugby. And so and my teachers realized pretty soon that I was absolutely useless. And so they allowed me to sit out the games lessons, as it was called, on a Thursday afternoon. And I would go and sit in the music room, in the music block. And there at the music block, I sat down and I taught myself to play the piano by listening to Beatles and Billy Joel songs.
Nice. Now, you mentioned the Beatles earlier. Who were some of your earliest music influences growing up besides them?
Oh, goodness. It kind of went in stages, because I had my dad's record collection. He listened to a lot of Neil Diamond. Led Zeppelin was one of his big favorites. Neil Young, Crosby, Stills and Nash, that kind of thing. And then as I began to have guitar lessons and develop my own tastes, I really got into Pink Floyd. Then Bob Dylan, my guitar teacher, introduced me to Bob Dylan. Supertramp, I kind of fell in love with Supertramp. They're still one of my all-time favorite bands. And then Fleetwood Mac and Eagles and Steely Dan. I can listen to Steely Dan all day, every day, even to this day. Donald Fagen solo stuff. I've got quite an eclectic taste. Ben Folds, I'm a huge fan of Ben Folds. So I kind of spread out that way. James Taylor, people like that. I'm very much into that kind of American West Coast sound as well. That kind of late 70s, early 80s. I think they call it yacht rock, or it was a bit of a detrimental term at one point. But but I love that. I love all that kind of thing.
Oh, me too. I have a few people that hate that term yacht rock, but I love it. I think that music is awesome.
Yeah, there was a program, a documentary made, American documentary called Yacht Rock, I think. Mm-hmm. And they interviewed people like Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald. And of course, they famously tried to speak to Donald Fagen on that interview. And the interviewer rings him up and says, "Oh, we're doing a documentary, Donald, would you mind taking part?" And Donald says, "Well, what's it about?" And the guy says, "Yacht Rock." Donald says, "Go fuck yourself." Puts the phone down, and they keep that in the documentary, which I think was fantastic.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen the I think it's like a comedy series on YouTube called Yacht Rock? Do you ever see that one?
There was a Saturday Night Live. It started in Saturday Night Live, didn't there? There was like a sketch when Michael McDonald runs in the studio and does some backing vocals and then disappears. I've seen that sketch, which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, cool.
These cats made some like YouTube series. It's like, short, like 20, 25-minute episodes about yacht rock. And it's really funny. I don't know. Okay. If you haven't seen it, man, check it out. It's definitely still up there, I think.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you.
And I love we have, something called Sirius XM at satellite radio, and they have a channel called Yacht Rock, and they play Steely Dan, Christopher Cross, like all those guys, Yeah. But
fantastic. I wish we had that here.
Yeah, it's great stuff. You just dropped your 5th album called 10. Can you share the details about it? There's a few covers on that CD you noticed as well.
Yeah, 10 is a compilation album. 10 years ago, 2015, I released my debut album. I was 40 years old when I released it, so I was pretty late to the game, although I've been writing songs and recording music ever since those days we spoke about when I was a young man. My life took a different path, and eventually, perhaps by a bit of a midlife crisis, I eventually ended up going back to music, and thank God I did. I've made 4 albums across the last 10 years, and it seemed like, 10 years is a significant amount of time, and just so I thought it was a good time to pull a collection together. Not a greatest hits as such. There's the popular songs on there and the ones that have done well on radio in certain countries and over here, and then some more obscure things and some rarities. So it was just kind of to mark that event, maybe draw a line under those 10 years, because I've got lots of things happening in the future that I've got planned, perhaps different kinds of things. So that's what the album's all about. Yeah,
I noticed the opening track, Allentown. I love that song.
I love Allentown as well. I mean, I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, and Allentown's one of my favourite songs of his. And I was touring while I was recording the first album. I was touring a lot with a guy called Peter Howarth, who's the lead singer of the Hollies. Remember the 60s band, 70s band, the Hollies? Peter's been with them for about 25 years now. Fabulous singer. And I was touring with him and doing some shows with the Hollies as well. And I was opening for Peter and just playing acoustic guitar and piano, not at the same time, separately, just me as a solo artist. And I wanted to, rather than just play all my own songs, I wanted to put some covers in there so that the audience don't get bored hearing songs they've never heard before. And I wanted to play a Billy Joel song, and Allentown's one of my favorites. So I started to practice Allentown here in my studio. And obviously it's a song about the steel factories closing down, isn't it, in Pennsylvania, in America. And it's Billy's version is very industrial. It's got steel clanging and jump, meant to sound like the factory, which is fabulous. But you can't pull that off as a solo artist playing the piano or make it effective. So I just tried slowing it down, and I just sat here and played a slowed down version of it. And the lyrics, I mean, all Billy Joel's lyrics are fabulous, but in this particular song, they're just quite incredible. And by slowing it down, they really took on a different meaning almost. You could really appreciate them for what they were by slowing it down and making it just voice and piano. And I started playing it, opening with it, actually, as it opens this album, opening with it at gigs. And you could hear a pin drop because people kind of I recognize that song. What's that song? But it was such a different version. Right. That it proved a wise move, because I think it probably still remains my most popular song on Spotify, and certainly amongst people who come to see me play. Yeah, it's definitely a great arrangement. I love how you did it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I recorded it literally freestyle here, and then I got a guy called Simon Lockyer to do a string arrangement over the top, and his strings just took it to another level. It's beautiful. Great job. This podcast showcases 3 of your tracks: Looking for the World, Each Other's Eyes, and The Radio Years. What's the story behind those songs? Let's go backwards. Let's start with The Radio Years, because that was the first one. That was the first single I ever released. It was on my first album. And I can specifically remember writing the music to the day, because it was Christmas Day in 2014. And I have a piano in my dining room downstairs. And I had got three young boys. Well, they're older now, but they were young at the time. And they'd opened their Christmas presents, and they went upstairs to put their new clothes on or whatever and get ready. And I just had that I don't know if you've got children, but you have that spare kind of half hour when everyone gets ready and you can just have a little bit of peace to yourself. And I sat down and I sat at the piano, and I came up with this chord sequence. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. That's something special. So I started writing a song, and because it was Christmas Day, I started writing a Christmas song. But me being me, it was kind of a miserable Christmas song. The first verse was about some kids who didn't get any presents, or a kid who didn't get any presents and was neglected. And then the second verse was about a soldier who was serving away, and it was pretty heavy stuff. And I recorded a demo and sent it to my producer, Keith Bessie, who was producing that first album. And he said to me, this is potentially a really great song, but it's not a Christmas song. He said, I hate Christmas songs. It's not bar humbug. He said, go away and rewrite it. And that's not easy. When you've written a song, it's really difficult because you just keep going back to the same lyrics and the same ideas. So it took me a few months, but eventually I came up with this idea and this lyric about writing a love song to my mistress, and my mistress being music, my mistress being the radio. And that's what it always has been. I've always had this love for music and the radio, and no matter what happens in my life, that you can never separate me from that. And that's what the song became. And so that was the first single from that debut album, and it did really well. There's a station over here called BBC Radio 2, which is the biggest station in the country, the biggest station in Europe. And one of the DJs there picked up on it and started playing it. So that was quite a start for a debut album. Nice. Yeah. Each Other's Eyes was one of the others, wasn't it? Each Other's Eyes. Well, I actually wrote that in America. I was lucky enough. I mentioned at the start that I'm a huge Ben Folds fan, and back in 2018, whilst I was recording my second album, funnily enough, I was invited, or was lucky enough to be invited to go to Ojai in California. Ojai is a town in California, to spend a week's on a songwriting retreat with Ben Folds and a group of other songwriters. And so yeah, I made my way over to LA. I stayed in LA for a couple of days, and I hired a car and I drove up the Pacific Coast Highway, listening to the Beach Boys and Steely Dan up
Nice.
to Ohio. It was absolutely wonderful. It was a dream come true, and hooked up with Ben Folds at this amazing house and a group of other incredible songwriters. I was the only Englishman there. Most of them were from North America, a couple from Canada, I think. And we set about writing songs, and the process was that we'd have breakfast together in the morning, and Ben would do like a presentation or talk about one of his songs or do an idea, and he'd say, okay, now I want you to go away and write a song based on this idea, and meet back here for lunch. And at lunchtime we then had to perform the songs in front of everyone else. So you had like 3 hours to write a song. You go back, you perform it, and then you repeat the exercise in the afternoon, write a completely different song.
Mm-hmm.
One of the albums that Ben Folds recorded was an album called Lonely Avenue, and he didn't write the lyrics. The lyrics were written by an Englishman called he's a book writer, Nick Hornby, famous author, certainly famous over here. And he hooked up with Ben, wrote a load of poems, if you like, and Ben wrote the music and made this famous album. So Ben said, let's all write a poem, and let's do it simple. We'll write a simple love song. We'll put them all in a hat. We'll pull them out. And whoever we get, we then write their song. And I pulled out a song called Each Other's Eyes, or a poem called Each Other's Eyes, written by a New Yorker, Sam Stringfield. And I sat down and went into my cubby hole that I had with a piano and a guitar, and I wrote Each Other's Eyes in two hours, and then came back and performed it. And when I came to record my third album, I decided to call it Ojai, because half of the songs in it were written during that songwriting retreat. And so I recorded Each Other's Eyes, and it's one of those songs which it came out. Sometimes when you record an album and record a song, it's really difficult to get what you hear in your head onto the computer coming out of those speakers. But that's one of those songs that it came out just as I heard it. And it's got a real West Coast feel about it. It was written there. It was, it was born there. And so that was fabulous. And I released that song, and that was incredible. I remember it. I got a phone call from a promoter in New York, and he said to me, I've been hearing your song on the radio. And I was like, what, really? You serious? And he was like, yeah. He said, there's a couple of stations here that are playing it. And he said, have you registered it? And I said, not as far as I know. I mean, it was registered over here in England, but I didn't know we had to do in America. Have you registered it for the chart? And so I hadn't, and he helped me. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email through saying it was gone to number 35 in the indie music chart. And I was absolutely over the moon and made up. America, I'm in the American charts. And the following week, it was up to number 20, then up to number 12, then number 5, then number 2, and it went to number 1.
Wow.
Number 1 in the indie music chart, number 14 or 15 in the top 40. And it stayed in both those positions for 4 weeks. And we had a hell of a party over here in the UK, I can assure you.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's
so that was
great.
Fabulous. Yeah, incredible. So it's weird, and it's funny that a song that was so I'm so English, but a song that was so born in the States, in California on that West Coast should do so well. And a funny thing was, at one point, I think in that top 40, I think I was sitting at number 15, and number 14 was Harry Styles.
Wow.
Number 16 was Justin Bieber. And I thought, they clearly don't know how old I am. It was lucky COVID was, it was the end of COVID, so I couldn't really travel, so I couldn't come over there. So no one knew who I was, but I got away with that one.
Yeah, that's a great song. And what about Looking for the World?
Looking for the World. Yeah, that's the title track from my second album, produced and written with a guy called Warren Bennett. And it's funny, I when I recorded that second album, I gave Warren a load of demos, and I had, probably 50 odd songs, far too many. And between us, we chose, 12 or 14 songs, and that wasn't one of them. Basically, I had the verse, but the chorus was something different. And we set about recording the album. We probably got halfway through the album. And Warren said to me one day, there's that song, Looking at You, Looking at Me. That's what it was called. And he said, it keeps coming back to me. I can't get it out of my head. Maybe we should have another look at it. So we did. We sat down with a couple of acoustic guitars, and I showed him how to play it, and we came up with that different chorus. And it became one of those songs, became the title track of the album, the first single. And it's funny how those things, sometimes things that you put in the trash can, are the things that you need the most. I mean, lyrically, I was kind of going through a bad time. I think it was weird because I'd worked so hard for 40 years and to get the opportunity to make that first album, that all of a sudden when I was at the peak and people were playing it, I kind of got depressed, which is really weird. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it wasn't up to my expectations or what it was. And so that second album was a little bit dark. I wrote a lot of songs. Mm-hmm. And Looking for the World, I mean, it sounds like a really, really upbeat, positive song, and it really is musically. But if you listen to lyrics, it actually says, stop looking for the world, stop looking for the world. And I think that's a message to myself, because I wanted to, the first album to conquer everything and to be this kind of superstar. And when that didn't quite happen, it was eating me up inside. So I had to stop looking for the world, just take things a little bit easy.
When I first heard that song, I was like, wow, this thing is great. The beginning, ba, ba, da, da, da. Like, when I first heard it, it almost reminded me of the George Michael song, Amazing. Like, you know how he has that in the beginning?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It has got that kind of, da 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 da. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just totally shifts gears, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. I love that's like my favorite song on the album. You did a great job on that song.
Oh, thank you. It's there's a lot of echoes of Jeff Lynne in there. I think some ELO strings and backing vocals and things. But yeah, it's a cool song.
Yeah, and even like when I listened to the radio years, I kind of got like a Elvis Costello vibe.
Yeah, I've heard that said about me. I'm a big Elvis Costello fan. Yeah, I mean, all those influences come out, I think, in my music. You could name any one of the people that we've mentioned, and I could tell you a song where I say, well, I think I'm channeling that person in that one. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. Now that we listen to the stories behind the songs, let's take a moment to relax and appreciate the song Each Other's Eyes.
Tears blur my reflection and make me more sad than you. Tough day, somebody talk down to you. All I can say is they don't see you like I do. In my eyes, you're a goddess they should be bowing down to. Your tears blur my reflection and make me more sad than you. When we lock eyes, we see where our future lies, and all the fear and doubt in both of us dies. We hold no secrets, we wear no disguise, you and I in each other's eyes. We hold no secrets, we wear no disguise, you and I in each other's eyes.
Wow, such a great song. How do you usually begin the process of writing a new song or a piece of music?
It comes from, I play the guitar and the piano, so it's either an acoustic guitar or a piano, just playing around on either of those and coming up with something that interests me chordally. I mean, I'm not a super duper lead guitar player or anything. I only ever learnt enough on the keyboard as well as on the guitar, enough to accompany my voice and to be able to write songs. You know, I leave all the technical clever stuff to other people. So yeah, it's just from playing around, coming up with a set of chords or a sequence of something, and that tends to inspire a feeling, a mood, an emotion, and that will determine what the lyrics are about. Or sometimes I have ideas in my head for lyrics, and it can come the opposite way around, but it's rare that it's more so these days. Certainly not when I was younger. It was always music based first of all. Nowadays you can start with lyrical ideas from hearing things or reading things, you know, but that's basically the process.
Nice. What role do producers, sound engineers, or other team members play in your creative process?
There are no sound engineers. I do it all myself here in this studio. Luckily these days with computers and with technology, you can get away without. I mean, I'd love to have lots of super duper microphones and people running around and micing things up for me, but I just do my best here and I seem to get away with it. In terms of producers, I produced the last two albums myself, not this one because it's a compilation album, and that was because I felt that I'd learned enough from the first two albums to be able to do it. I've been recording music in my bedroom and in a home studio since I was 13 years old, so I kind of knew what I was doing. But when it came to release that first album, I knew that to make it professional, to actually release a professional album that people were going to hopefully play on the radio, I needed help. And that first album I'm very lucky to get a guy called Keith Bessie, who worked with Elton John, 10cc, all the 10cc albums, Cliff Richard, loads of great people. And he brought some great ideas. You know, he told me when I like the Radio Years song, for example, he said, no, this isn't a Christmas song, rewrite it. He did slightly different arrangements, cut the songs down, said, no, don't do that so much. You're going on too long there. We need to make it more precise. He brought in the string guy who I mentioned did the strings. I know someone, we need strings on this one, and gave a rough idea of that. And so he kind of helped me put that album together and sonically helped it to sound the way it did. And then I say Warren Bennett produced the second album, and Warren's produced a lot of TV music and things like that, a great orchestrator and a great writer. So we ended up writing songs together, and he was very much into, you know, here's this song, you got a great song here, but how do we make it better? We need to change that bit there. We need to add an outro, which is something different. And the intro needs to be this and clever. And all of a sudden, this very simple song became 4 or 5, you know, parts to it. But they were all a bit like you said, we're looking for the world. It was Warren's idea for that da 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 da. That was his. Let's have that. You know, let's put this hook there, and then let's have this outro there, and just add little hooks everywhere to make it more commercial. He's really commercial minded. So I think producers help in all sorts of ways. But you know, when you're recording most of the instruments yourself and in it, then they kind of pick up on all the slack that you let go because you're too busy.
Gotcha. Throughout the past decade, you've overcome cancer and learned to cope with type 2 diabetes. What was the secret to bouncing back from such hardships?
Oh, geez. You know, the cancer was an interesting one. That was in January 2022, was it? January 2023. So I was 49 years old. And we had the NHS hit, and I was due a free NHS health check, probably because I was turning 50 later in that year. It's like an MOT for your body. And I didn't want to go. And my wife, men don't go to the doctors. They certainly don't over here. We just ignore that. And my wife was on at me, no, you really should go. You know, you should get yourself checked out. And I don't want to go to the doctors for him to tell me I drink too much and I'm slightly overweight. You know what I mean? I don't want to go there for. But she insisted. And so I went along, and yeah, within a day, within 24 hours, the doctor called me up and said, you know, you're severely diabetic. You need to come and see me first thing in the morning. I went to see him, and I had no symptoms of diabetes as far as I was aware. But, you know, and they sent me off to the hospital to get scanned, and they found that I had a tumor in my left kidney.
Wow.
And so again, no symptoms at all. So within a couple of months, I was being operated on. They removed most of my left kidney, but kept some of it because they didn't want to remove it completely because of the diabetes. Because only having one kidney can cause you problems in later life.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be a grade 3 aggressive cancer. So had I not gone for my NHS health check, I wouldn't have made it for much longer.
Wow.
So I was very, very lucky, really. But I don't want to sound blasé, but I kind of took it in my stride. He kind of told me you got cancer, and I was okay. Well, I'll just get on with things, and I'll worry about that when the time comes. You know what I mean? And I kind of didn't think about it until the day before the operation. Everyone, I mean, my family and that were worried about it, but I just kind of continued. And people say to me, "Oh, is it giving you a different outlook on life and things like that?" And it hasn't really, because I always lived each day to the full. I always grabbed every opportunity with both hands. So, the cancer kind of made no difference. I've always just been a bit crazy. You know what I mean? I just do what I like and have fun, and that hasn't changed me. So yeah, it was an interesting period, and I'm all clear now. So on to the next thing.
We're not getting any younger, so we have to take care of ourselves. And when you go to the doctor, sometimes you don't always get the news you want to hear, right?
Well, no, and unfortunately it happens. As like you say, we're getting older, so that's what we have to put up with now. I've got to tell you, I'm actually on the diabetes thing. Mm-hmm. I'm actually in my fifth. Today you're speaking to me. I'm on my 5th day of a very special diet because the NHS they asked me. They didn't tell me. It was my choice. But I've been put onto a very for 3 months. I'm not allowed to. I'm only allowed to have shakes, milkshakes, and soups made out of a special thing. I can't eat any solid foods for 3 months. No alcohol, which is really tough. Yeah, I love a beer. So my 5th day of not eating anything. I have this special powder that I have to make into a shake and a soup, and I'm really hungry, to be honest, James. Really damn hungry.
I'm sure you are. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, well, 79 days to go.
Wow. That's like an eternity, man. I just started a low carb diet. It was about a week ago. So I cut out like breads and, sugar and things like that. Yeah. And I've already lost about 9 pounds. So I'm pretty happy. Yeah. I may go back to cheating on like the weekend and stuff like that, because I do like a slice of pizza here and there and, a piece of cake and stuff like that. But, I feel a little bit better because I was sick for a while. I was sick for like almost 2 months. I've had some issues with my stomach and some blood pressure issues as well that wound me up in the ER. So they gave me some medication and stuff like that. So I am starting to feel a lot better. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you're tempted to have that pizza, just think of me, who can only have shakes and soups. And
I'll have a slice for you, bud.
please,
what's your favorite topping on pizza?
Oh, yeah, I like a bit of pepperoni. I'm quite basic actually. Just a bit of pepperoni, maybe some onions and that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the meat lovers where they put the pepperoni, the sausage, the meatball. A little bit of ham.
Hungry, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I better stop talking about food. You mentioned a few moments ago about your charting positions on that song "Each Other's Eyes," and you've achieved, like you mentioned, 2 top 3 hits in the USA, included a 4-week stint at #1 in 2021 with your self-penned song "Each Other's Eyes." What was it like to do something you love so much and see it chart in such impressive positions? It must have been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even describe it. It was so rewarding. When I ran a construction company with my dad from the age of 21 to 40, or about 39 when I started recording the album. And we had a successful company working in London, and it got to the point where my dad wasn't very well, didn't want to carry on. I never wanted to be there in the first place because I was always into music. I just kind of fell into it. And then I met I met a lady who was in the music business who liked my music. So I was lucky to get this crossroads, and I decided to give up the successful building company with 3 young boys to follow my love for music at the age of 40. And everyone thought I was completely mad. My wife was okay. Thank God, she went along with it. She said, she just wanted me to be happy. But my parents, my friends just thought I was absolutely bonkers. It is a crazy thing to do. Let's be honest. It's just madness. So, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. You know, as I say, I had that kind of depression after. I didn't think, God, what have I done? Have I done the right thing? You know. So that was justification. You know, that was. I told you I could do it. You know, I'm lucky my parents are still with me. So I was so proud for them. I was so proud for my children and my wife. I was so proud of all the people involved in the record. My manager Lisa, and my business partner now Lisa, who originally had that faith in me. I'm so proud for those people, much more than I was for myself. Just the justification for those people who did so much for me and still do so much for me to turn around and say, look, we did it, man. It's just, you know, it still sends shivers down my spine. It's wonderful.
That's awesome. Throughout your career, you've graced global stages and shared the spotlight with some of your heroes, such as Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Cliff Richard, Krista Berg, Glenn Frey, Russell Watson, Suzi Quatro. You've even had the chance to meet Queen Elizabeth, King Charles, and Queen Camilla. What were those experiences like?
Oh, crazy. I mean, I was established at the stage, Paul McCartney, the Beatles were my first influence. You know, I think any musician is going to mention the Beatles. They're just incredible. And Paul McCartney was just my hero. He's the reason I picked up the guitar or first sat down at the piano and started to write songs. And you don't get to meet people like that. You shouldn't meet a Beatle. I'm just this ordinary guy. You know, you don't get to meet Paul McCartney. It shouldn't happen, but it did. You know, and it was weird. I was actually working with Cliff Richard, who's a very famous British artist. I'm not sure he's so well known over there. And I was working with him at the Queen's Jubilee concert back in 2012, was it? Yeah, 2012, 2013 at Buckingham Palace. And I was lucky enough to go along because I was helping him. And backstage, it was just like one huge dressing room, just with like curtained off. And I was gone to see Cliff, who I was working with, at his dressing room, and very next door it said on the signpost Sir Paul McCartney. On the other side, Tom Jones, and then Elton John, Stevie Wonder, and so on and so on. Everyone who was anyone in the music business was there. And so I had a quick look. I was there for the whole weekend, and I had a quick look at the sound check sheet, and I saw that Paul McCartney was sound checking at, I don't know, midday the next day. I didn't have to be there till about 7 o'clock in the evening, but I made sure I turned up about 10 a.m. just to be there in time. And I sat and I watched Paul McCartney sound check. It was just me, my manager Lisa, and a couple of people sweeping up, and he was incredible. And I sang along to every song, and he was obviously looking at me. There was no one else to look at. And when he finished, he came down off the stage and came over to me and said, "Hi, I'm Paul." I was like, I know, man. And he was just, and he was incredible. I got to hang out with him for a couple of days and gave him a CD, and he was very gracious, very humble, just a normal guy, considering he's the most abnormal guy in the world. And you know, I cried my eyes out, to be honest, when he walked away. It was incredibly emotional to meet and to chat to someone like that. It was like the culmination of your dreams. You know, as I said, it shouldn't happen. So you know, for me, that was the big one. It was incredible. You know, and again, you know, I Glenn Frey. I mentioned I was a huge Eagles fan. Glenn Frey, on his last solo album he did, which was an album of covers, that kind of American standards, and he came over to the UK to promote that, and I wound up working with him here, hanging out for about a weekend. And remember, there was like a record company reception in a hotel. It was in a little bar area in a hotel, like private area, and there were only maybe 15, 16 people there, record company types, and me and a couple of others. And there was a piano in there, and he sat down at the piano and he played Desperado and a couple of tracks from the new album, the album he was promoting. And they're pinch yourself moments, you know what I mean? I mean, I've paid lots and lots of money to go and see the Eagles in huge stadiums, you know?
Yeah.
And to be sitting in a room drinking a beer with Glenn Frey and then getting up on the piano and him playing those songs for you. You know, it's for any person, they're pinch you moments. But for a musician and a songwriter like myself who've idolized these people, it's indescribable. I've been very, very lucky.
I'm sure. Now, Paul McCartney, he even he wrote a quote for you, right? Isn't that up on your website or something like that?
He called me a rock star, yeah. So I gave him I gave him a CD, and he very kindly took it back into his dressing room. And I don't know if he listened to it, but I couldn't hear. But an hour or so later, when I saw him, he came out and he goes, "Hey, rock star. How you doing, man? You're the rock star, not me. You're the rock star, you know. And I can remember every little flick of the hair. And I said, is that a quote? Can I use it? And he said, yeah, man. So yeah, it's all over my website and everything.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
So outside of music, do you have any other hobbies that you like to do?
Well, I used to like going to the pub and having a beer, but I'm not allowed to for 3 months. So, yeah, I'm a big movie buff. I love watching movies. I like walking my dog when the weather's kind. You know, that's about it, really. Listening to music. There's always music on somewhere in the house. You know, I got 3 boys. They still live at home, so we're usually doing something or the other. That's
pretty cool. Do you have a website or social media that you'd like to promote?
Yeah, the website is michaelarmstrongmusic.co.uk, and the Facebook and Instagram are all derivatives of that. Facebook, Michael Armstrong Music, etc. Yeah.
And all the links are up there, like if they want to get the 10 album?
Yeah, if you go onto the website, the links are on there for the 10 album, all the other albums. There's lots of videos that I've made, lots of photographs of me hanging out with Paul McCartney and Glenn Fry and all the other people you mentioned. So it's a pretty cool website.
Nice. Now, is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
Oh, goodness. I think you've covered everything, James. I mean, no, it's just that the new album 10 is out there now. It's available at all the usual places. And yeah, I hope to come over and see you one day.
That would be awesome if you came down here. I would love. I'll take you out for a beer.
Oh, I'll be there tomorrow. What time?
And pizza.
Oh God, I'm on my way.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for doing this show today. I really appreciate it. I love this album. I hope everybody goes out and buys it.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, James. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. You take care and have a great day. All right.
You too, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
I just want to give a shout out to Michael for stopping by today. It was awesome chatting with you. But before we wrap things up, let's vibe to another track from this amazing album. This one's titled The Radio Years.
Well, I try hard to remember, but where do I begin? It's something deep inside you, it's underneath the skin. And I've tried my best to shake it, but it never goes away. She knows I might never make it, but she begs me to stay and turn her on. When the DJ's got a song, give me music from the rafters, give me songs and souvenirs, give me dancing in the aisles, keep me smiling through these tears. Tell me we can be together, but it's not as it appears. Give me wall-to-wall vision, but the radio years made the man I wanna be. And I'm always right beside her, though she flirts with everyone, from Jackson to Sinatra and those kids at number one. And she's always a temptation, she never lets me down. If I wake up, she'll be willing to take me to town. Rock and roll, yeah, she's the devil in my soul. Give me music from the rafters, give me songs and souvenirs, give me dancing in the aisles, keep me smiling through these tears. Tell me we can be together, I switch off, she disappears. Give me wall-to-wall vision, but the radio years made the man I wanna be.
The Record Machine Show is a weekly radio podcast produced by Jimmy Howell Productions. All rights reserved. For information regarding distribution or adding this podcast to your website, please visit our contact page at therecordmachineshow.com to submit your request. Thanks for listening. See you next time on The Record Machine Show.
The Record Machine Show.